Okay, what they're going to do now is they're going to load the muskets. You'll see the operation that it takes to load. They're going to take a cartridge out, tear the paper, pour the powder down. You've got to have at least 3 good teeth to be in the Army during the 1860s. Load! You'll see they grasp the cartridge. They bring it up, taking their 3 good teeth, tearing it open, pouring the powder down the barrel. You'll place the ball down in the barrel, push the wadding in, ram it home. Always make sure you'll see where they stuck the ramrod in the ground. That you return it to the rifle, because without that ramrod, you've got an 8-pound club. Y'all step back this way, boys. Back this way. Squad, line of vote. Move. Ready. Okay. Fire. Load. And see, there were several ways that they would do that. A company would be about 100 guys. If you fired the whole company, you're empty. A lot of times what they'd do is you generally fought in 2-ranked line of battle. So you could fire your front rank and your rear rank. Another thing they did is fire by file, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit. Firing by file, commence firing. Say it comes down the line. You've got 100 guys putting out a constant stream of fire. That was the favorite command for the Southern soldiers. Wasn't quite as many Southerners as there was Yankees, so they tried to put out as much fire as they could, kind of thin them odds down. Ceasefire. Load and hold. Ready. Okay. Fire. Shoulder on. Face by the front rank. Boom. Face. Forward. March. Halt. Order arms in place well. Kind of hard to do much demonstration without a large number of guys. We used to come, we'd have about 20. And you can say we've thinned down right much. There's only about 8 or 10 of our regiments left active. You can see most of us are aging out. But what I want to talk about now is North Carolina. Early war, North Carolina. You could tell by my uniform that I'm a North Carolinian. How? How is that? Anybody know? Black shoulder boards. North Carolina is the only southern state where the officers were required by North Carolina regulation to wear shoulder boards. I'm an infantry officer. How do we know? What's the color inside my shoulder board? It's black. That means I'm an infantry officer. These are infantry soldiers. North Carolina, early war, produced sack coats. These are all sack, very good functional coats, black non-functioning epaulets. They should have an inch stripe on their pants. If you look at these buttons, they're the North Carolina State Seal. Who else wears North Carolina State Seal buttons? Ain't y'all ever looked at a highway patrolman?
Thankfully, no.
Well, I mean, his buttons are copies of this. What does his uniform look like? He wears a gray, dark gray cut-off jacket and light gray trousers with a black stripe on them. Where do you think they got that uniform from? North Carolina State Police wore Confederate uniforms. We had, at the end of the war, we had 100,000 or more. We put the state police in them and German prisoners from World War I and some German prisoners from World War II in those. Where North Carolinians were very frugal. We don't waste a lot of stuff. North Carolina National Guard motto. Does anybody know it? First at Bethel. What does that mean? First Confederate soldier killed during the war was killed at the Battle of Big Beltsville in Virginia. His name was James White. There's a monument to him that stands on the old Capitol in Raleigh today. Farthest at Gettysburg. What does that mean? North Carolina troops on the third day of Pettigrew, Pickett, Longstreet advanced, went farther. How do we know? It was a black man that did all the burying there. And he did a map that showed the dead. And it was only North Carolinians over the wall dead. Virginians went over the wall, but they went over like this, with their hands up. They didn't go over fighting. Farthest at Chickamauga is the third line. North Carolina troops got farther than any of the other southern troops in the Battle of Chickamauga, the 39th North Carolina. It was raised right here in these mountains. Went farther than anybody else. Last at Appomattox. After the Battle of Sailor's Creek, about the only army that was left with Lee was his North Carolinians. A handful of Virginians, a handful of Georgians, South Carolinians. But most of Longstreet's guys had been either called or surrendered at Sailor's Creek. When they got to Appomattox, the Federal Army had closed in. They were trying to get to Charlottesville. At Charlottesville, there were 2 trains with ammunition and food, weapons, and shoes. Late in the evening on the 7th, Lee went to General Grimes and his North Carolinians attacked early the next morning, driving the Federal cavalry in front of them, putting Custer's troopers down the road, blew the road open for the army to march on. But about that same time, word comes that the trains in Charlottesville had been burned. The only monument you'll find at Appomattox is to North Carolina. And as a North Carolinian, if you ain't been to Gettysburg, shame on you. There's no more sacred ground to a North Carolinian in Gettysburg. One out of six men that died at Gettysburg was from this state. Any one of the North Carolina regiments lost more men killed than all of Pickett's Virginia division. And that's, you ought to take great pride if you're from North Carolina, being a North Carolinian. In 1863, if you were a North Carolinian and slipped across the border to Tennessee as a North Carolinian, the Federal Army would pay you $300 to join the Federal Army. He would only pay a Tennessean $100. That tells me that the federal government thinks the North Carolinian is worth twice again what a Tennessean is. Who am I to argue with the federal government? Well, thank y'all for your time. And we'll be down here if you think of something. Come down and look at our weapons if you haven't. Thank you much.